There's a quiet power that doesn't announce itself. In a world addicted to noise, where every thought, every meal, every moment must be broadcast, silence has become rebellion. The confident don't need to prove they're living. They are living, deeply, privately, without applause. They move through life like calm rivers, steady, unseen, yet carving through mountains. Because they've learned something most have forgotten. Validation is the cheapest currency of the human soul. In the blue glow of screens, people trade their peace for perception. They scroll, they post, they compare, mistaking attention for worth. But attention fades. What stays is the echo of emptiness once the notifications stop. The Stoics would have recognized this disease of modern times, this hunger for approval, this quiet desperation to be seen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Centuries later, that truth still cuts. Because even now, we measure our existence through the eyes of strangers. The most confident ones? They've stepped out of that illusion. They don't need to perform their peace. They live it. They've learned that real confidence isn't loud. It's grounded. It's the calm knowing that your worth doesn't depend on display. And yet, the world keeps whispering, "Show them. Prove it." But proof is for the uncertain. The confident don't need to convince anyone they're happy, successful, or fulfilled. They just are. That's the beauty of quiet strength. It's invisible until it's undeniable. Real confidence doesn't grow in crowds. It grows in silence. In those nights when you sit alone with your thoughts and make peace with them. It's forged not in praise, but in discipline. Not in applause, but in self-respect. The confident understand that solitude is not loneliness. It's alignment. They're not running from the world. They're returning to themselves. Seneca said, "If you want to be loved, love yourself." He wasn't speaking of ego, but of grounding, of finding fullness within, so you're not desperate for it from others. When you love yourself in truth, you stop begging for fragments of love from people who only offer it when you perform. You no longer need to announce your healing, your hustle, or your happiness. Because real growth doesn't need a witness. The Stoic doesn't tell the world he's mastering his emotions. He simply does. And here lies the quiet shift from external validation to internal peace. You start realizing that not everything needs to be shared. Some moments lose meaning when exposed to the crowd. A sunrise doesn't need an audience. A victory doesn't need applause. A healed heart doesn't need to be proven through posts. The more you learn to hold your peace in private, the stronger it becomes. Because what's sacred loses power when it's overexposed. In today's world, silence has become rare and therefore powerful. To not react, not announce, not chase relevance, that's mastery. Because the more you talk about your next move, the less energy you have to make it. The confident ones are busy building, not broadcasting. They're living, not performing. And when they finally appear, it's not to say, "Look at me," but to show, "This is who I became when no one was watching." There's a strange comfort in invisibility. When you stop needing the spotlight, you start to see life more clearly. Without the pressure to cure it, you live more honestly. The confident man doesn't document his peace. He protects it. He's not afraid of being misunderstood. He's just tired of explaining himself. Because peace doesn't need defense. It just needs distance. But why do so many struggle to let go of this need to be seen? Because visibility has become a form of survival. In an age where existence feels tied to engagement, silence feels like death. But to the Stoic, that's where life begins, in the stillness that no algorithm can measure. They knew that the world will always tempt you to scatter your attention, to chase likes, status, and constant noise. But power lies in the man who can stand still amidst the chaos. He who can scroll through noise and not be pulled by it, he owns his mind. Confidence isn't built on how loud you are. It's built on how steady you stay when everything tries to shake you. It's the man who can watch others flaunt their lives, yet remain focused on his own unseen path. He doesn't envy. He doesn't compare. Because he understands. Most people are performing peace they haven't yet earned. The confident one doesn't need to prove that he's at peace. He is peace. He doesn't need to prove that he's winning. He is the win. His strength lies not in showing, but in knowing. And that's what makes quiet confidence so powerful. It is rooted in something deeper than performance. It's anchored in self-awareness, in stillness, in discipline. When you no longer crave validation, you gain the one thing the world can't give you: freedom. But let's be honest, detaching from the need for validation is not easy. It feels uncomfortable at first. Silence feels empty when you've been fed on attention. But it's in that emptiness that your real self begins to rise. You start to see who you are without an audience. You start to value what doesn't need to be seen. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." Meaning, awareness of your weakness is the start of your strength. When you catch yourself craving attention, it's not failure, it's awakening. You're seeing the ego in action. And when you can observe it without obeying it, you're already rising above it. The confident learn to pause before posting. They ask, why am I sharing this? To inspire or to be seen? That question alone reveals truth, because intention is everything. If it comes from ego, it will drain you. If it comes from peace, it will strengthen you. Confidence is quiet because it's secure. And security doesn't need to be announced. When you know who you are, you don't need the world to agree. You move differently. You walk with a rhythm the insecure can't understand. Steady, grounded, free. Confidence is not an announcement. It's a quiet agreement between you and your soul, a knowing that no one else needs to validate. It's built in silence, where no one claps. It's refined in failure, where no one notices. And it's tested in moments of stillness, when the world moves without you. The confident have learned that not every step of growth needs to be witnessed, because the most sacred transformations happen in private, when no one's watching, when no one's liking, when no one's there to congratulate you. They've realized that visibility can dilute meaning, that some victories lose power when shared too soon. They don't post the struggle because they're busy fighting it. They don't broadcast their grind because they're living it. There's no need to narrate their every move. Their results will do that for them. And even then, they won't flaunt it, because true strength doesn't boast. It breathes. In a city of glowing screens and endless noise, the quiet ones have become the rarest. While everyone's shouting into the void, trying to prove they exist, they've learned the art of being still. Still, but not stagnant. Calm, but not complacent. Invisible, yet deeply alive. Their power lies in what they don't reveal. They know that exposure invites noise, opinions, projections, comparisons. And every ounce of energy spent managing perception is energy stolen from progress. So they protect their energy the way warriors protect their weapons, not out of fear, but discipline. Because discipline is what separates the wise from the loud. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And that's the truth of our age. The more we spread ourselves thin across timelines and feeds, the less we exist in the present moment. The confident live differently. They inhabit their lives fully, without needing to document every breath. They're not running from silence. They thrive in it. And yet, the world keeps trying to drag them back into the circus, to make them perform, to make them prove, to make them visible. But they understand that visibility is not the same as significance. The most important things in life, love, purpose, peace, happen off camera. The confident live as if they're already enough, because they are. Their worth doesn't fluctuate with attention. They don't chase trends. because their identity isn't built on reaction. They've outgrown the need for external approval, and that's why they're dangerous to the system. You can't manipulate someone who no longer needs to be seen. In this way, their silence becomes rebellion. Their peace becomes power. They are no longer playing the game of image. They're mastering the game of self. And when they speak, it's deliberate. When they post, it's purposeful. When they show up, it's with intent, not impulse. Every move comes from clarity, not craving. And that's what separates calm power from desperate noise. Still, there's another layer to this, the humility behind their confidence. Because the loudest voices often come from insecurity, but the calmest ones come from understanding. They've faced their fears. They've embraced their flaws. They've accepted that not everything about them is meant for display. They're not hiding. They're honoring. Honoring the parts of their journey that deserve privacy. The Stoics would call this temperance, the virtue of balance. It's not suppression. It's wisdom. To know when to speak, when to act, when to share, and when to simply be. They've realized that confidence without humility becomes arrogance. So they stay grounded, even in growth. They celebrate quietly, because peace doesn't need fireworks. In a culture obsessed with being seen, humility feels almost extinct. But the confident understand, humility is not weakness. It's control. The ability to hold power without flaunting it. To succeed without shouting, to love without broadcasting, to grow without needing applause. This is the art of inner mastery, and it's rare because it requires self-awareness. It requires patience. It requires letting go of the constant need to be validated. At night, when the city dims and the screens go dark, the confident are at peace. They don't feel anxious about what others think. They don't replay conversations or worry about impressions. They've learned that peace begins when comparison ends. Their self-worth doesn't depend on digital echoes. In solitude, they recharge. In silence, they realign. Because the world outside may be loud, but the world within is where truth lives. And they protect that truth fiercely. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the essence of their calm. They don't control how they're perceived, only how they respond. And when you understand that, you become untouchable. No rumor can break you. No judgment can bend you. No loss of followers can shake you, because your peace is no longer for sale. The confident don't need to post their joy because they live it. They don't need to announce their discipline because it's already evident in their presence. They're not searching for attention. They're cultivating alignment. And that's what makes them magnetic without trying. Their quiet is not emptiness. It's energy being built. It's focus. It's direction. While others scatter themselves trying to be seen, they're gathering strength in silence. That's why when they finally emerge, it feels effortless. But it's not. It's the result of countless unseen moments of consistency. True confidence doesn't crave the spotlight. It becomes the light. You can feel it when they walk into a room, grounded, calm, unshaken, because they've learned the ultimate Stoic truth. He who masters himself needs no audience. And so, the next time you feel the urge to post for approval, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this out of truth or out of hunger? If it's hunger, sit with it. Let it burn. Let it teach you where you've been giving your peace away. Because every moment of silence you choose over noise is a moment of self-respect. The confident are not against sharing. They just know that oversharing drains the sacredness from life. They don't reject the digital world. They simply refuse to be enslaved by it. They've found balance, presence in both worlds, mastery in both realms. They use social media, but it doesn't use them. And that's the quiet line between control and captivity. At its core, confidence is not a performance. It's a peace treaty between your heart and your mind. It's choosing to live truthfully without explanation. It's the silent art of walking through life without needing validation, because your spirit has already approved you. You become less reactive, less impressed, less dependent on being seen. And in that stillness, your power multiplies. The Stoics would remind us, you cannot find peace in the noise. You must find peace above it. To stand still in a world of motion, that is confidence. To remain unseen and yet deeply fulfilled, that is mastery. And to live in silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because your spirit no longer needs to shout, that is freedom. So remember this. You don't have to post your peace for it to be real. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. The most confident souls are not the ones the world sees. They're the ones who see themselves clearly. They move quietly, love deeply, and walk freely, because peace was never something to be shown. It was something to be remembered.